Once upon a time, in a town called Degema, nestled in the lush vegetations of Port Harcourt, Nigeria, there was a beautiful girl named Bibobra. Her beauty was unparalleled. She had large, soulful eyes that sparkled like the stars in a clear night sky, a radiant smile that could warm even the coldest of hearts, and skin as smooth as the finest silk. Her beauty was the talk of the town and beyond. Mothers would often point her out to their sons, whispering, "See, that is Bibobra, the epitome of grace and beauty." Bibobra was known not just for her looks, but for her kindness and humility. She was beloved by everyone, from the youngest children who played in the dusty streets to the oldest who sat beneath the great Iroko tree at the center of Degema. Every day, Bibobra will help her mother in the fields and tend to the goats and draw water from the well, her laughter ringing out like a sweet melody. But despite her beauty and her many virtues, her life was far from easy. From the time she turned 16, suitors began to arrive at her family's doorstep. Men came from far and near, hoping to win her hand in marriage. Most were very wealthy merchants with riches to spare. Others were brave hunters with tales of their conquests. And still, others were humble fishermen who simply wished for a wife as kind and lovely as Bibobra. But no matter how promising they seemed, each and every one of them would leave shortly after meeting Bibobra's father, Aguma. He was a man bathed in mystery. Years before, on the night Bibobra was born, a strange angry wind swept through the village. The skies turned dark, the winds whispered like angry spirits, and a dense fog descended upon the land. Aguma was caught in the midst of this strange storm, and when the storm passed, he was never the same again. The townspeople whispered that he had been cursed by an ancient spirit that roamed the forest, a spirit that was angered by some long forgotten grievance. Please subscribe to this channel, like, share, and comment. Aguma had become a man caught between two worlds, half man and half spirit. His right side remained human, with skin that had aged gracefully, eyes that were warm and full of love, and a gentle smile that could calm even the most frightened child. But his left side was a different story. It was ghostly, translucent, as if made of mist. His left eye glowed with a spooky, strange light, and his voice, when he spoke from that side, sounded like a faint whisper carried in the wind. Because of this strange transformation, Aguma was feared and avoided by many. Children would scatter at the sight of him, and even the bravest men would cross to the other side of the road when they saw him approaching. Despite his gentle nature and kind heart, he was treated as an outcast, a man to be pitied and avoided. His own wife, Bibobra's mother, loved him dearly, but could never shake the fear that lingered in her heart whenever she looked at him. As a result, every time a suitor came to ask for Bibobra's hand in marriage, they would first have to speak with Aguma. And as soon as they laid eyes on him, they would find some excuses to leave. Some claimed they had forgotten an urgent matter back home, while others would simply disappear into the night, never to return. It wasn't long before word spread throughout the neighboring villages, and the once steady stream of suitors dried up like a river in a scorching harmattan wind. Bibobra's heart ached with sadness. She loved her father dearly and could see the pain in his eyes each time another suitor fled. She knew he blamed himself for her misfortune. Despite the whispers and the fears, Aguma had always been a good father, teaching Bibobra the values of kindness, honesty, and hard work. He had never raised his voice in anger, and his love for her and her mother was unwavering. But the curse, it seemed, was too great a burden to bear. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the sky in colors of orange and pink, Bibobra sat beside her father outside their modest hut. She could see the worry etched into his face with the heavy sighs. She reached out and took his hand, squeezing it gently. "Papa," she began softly, "you know I do not blame you. I love you just as you are." Please subscribe to this channel, like, share, and comment. And I will not trade you for all the riches in the world. Aguma smiled, but there was a sadness in his eyes that he could not hide. I know, my daughter, he replied, his voice a mix of his human warmth and the ghostly whisper that came from his spirit side. But I fear that I'm the cause of your loneliness. No man will ever stay once they see me. I wish I could undo this curse, not for myself, but for you. Bibobra shook her head, tears streaming down her eyes. Do not speak of curses, Papa. We are a family and we'll face whatever comes together. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months, and still no suitor came. Bibobra began to accept her fate. Perhaps she was destined to remain unmarried, to live out her days caring for her parents and working the land. She tried to be content, but deep down, she could not shake the longing for a life of her own, a life filled with love and adventure. Then, one day, a stranger arrived in the village. He was a tall, handsome man with broad shoulders and a confident stride. His name was Dagogo. He was unlike any man the townspeople had ever seen. He wore a robe of deep blue, the color of the midnight sky, and his eyes were as sharp as hawks. He carried a long spear on his back, adorned with feathers and charms, and around his neck hung a pendant with a bright shining stone that seemed to pulse with a life of its own. Dagogo had heard tales of Bibobra's beauty and had traveled many days and nights to see her for himself. He was a warrior, known throughout the land for his bravery and strength. He had fought many battles and had faced dangers that would make other men tremble. But he was also a man of great wisdom, taught by his mother, a renowned seer who could see beyond the veil of the living world into the realm of the spirits. When Dagogo arrived at Bibobra's home, he was greeted by her mother, who eyed him with a mixture of hope and apprehension. You have come for my daughter? She asked cautiously. Dagogo nodded, his eyes never leaving hers. I have heard of her beauty and her kindness. I wish to speak with her. Bibobra's mother led him inside, her heart pounding in her chest. Bibobra was there, seated by the fire, her dark hair cascading over her shoulders like a waterfall of midnight. When she looked up and saw Dagogo, her breath caught in her throat. He was unlike any man she had ever seen, and for a moment she felt a spark of hope flare to life within her. But Dagogo did not waste any time. I wish to marry your daughter, he said, turning to face Aguma, who sat in the corner, half in the shadows. Aguma looked at him with weary eyes. You wish to marry her now? He said softly. But you do not yet know what you are asking. Dagogo nodded, stepping forward so that he could see both sides of Aguma's face. I know of your curse, he said calmly, and I have come to break it. A stunned silence fell over the room. Bibobra looked at Dagogo with wide eyes, her heart racing. Could it be true? Could this stranger really know how to break the curse that had plagued her family for so long? Aguma shook his head. Many have tried, he said, his voice heavy with doubt, but none have succeeded. Dagogo smiled, a confident, reassuring smile. That is because none of them were me, he replied. I have faced the spirits of the forest, the ghosts of the river, and the demons of the deserts. I have learnt their ways, their secrets, and I have learnt how to break a curse such as yours. He paused, looking directly into Aguma's eyes. But I must warn you, he continued, the journey will not be easy. We must travel to the place where the curse was first laid, and there we will confront the spirit who did this to you. It will be dangerous and there is no guarantee of success. But if you're willing, I'm ready to help. Please subscribe to this channel, like, share, and comment. Aguma sat in silence for a long moment, his eyes fixed on the fire. Then, slowly, he nodded. I have nothing to lose, he said quietly, and everything to gain if you can help me. Then I'm willing to try. Bibobra felt a surge of hope and fear all at once. She wanted to believe that Dagogo could help her father, but she also knew the risks. Still, she could see the determination in Dagogo's eyes, the resolve that had carried him through so many battles. And so, she found herself nodding along with her father. "We will go with you," she said, her voice steady. "Whatever it takes." And so, the next morning, they set out on their journey. Dagogo led the way, his spear in hand, the pendant around his neck glowing softly in the early morning light. Bibobra and her father followed him behind, their hearts filled with a mixture of hope and fear. They walked for hours, leaving the safety of their village behind, venturing into the wild, untamed lands beyond. As they traveled, Dagogo told them stories of his adventures, of his battles he has fought, and the spirit he had faced. Bibobra listened with rapt attention, her eyes wide with wonder. She had never met a man like him before, a man so brave, so wise, and so kind. She felt a strange warmth in her heart, a feeling she had never felt before. But as the sun began to set, they reached the edge of a dark, foreboding forest. Dagogo stopped, his face serious. "This is it," he said gently. "The place where the curse was laid. Beyond those trees lies the spirit's domain. We must be careful from here on." Bibobra nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. She took her father's hands, squeezing it lightly. "We can do this, Papa," she whispered. "We have to." Dagogo led them into the forest, the shadows growing longer and darker with each step. The air was thick with tension, and the only sound was the crunch of leaves beneath their feet. Suddenly, a cold wind swept through the trees, and they heard a faint, spooky whisper on the wind. "Who dares enter my domain?" the voice hissed, sending chills down Bibobra's spine. Dagogo stepped forward, his spear raised. "I am Dagogo," he called out, his voice strong and steady. "And I have come to break your curse." A low, menacing laugh echoed through the forest. "You are brave," the spirit replied, "but foolish. Many have tried, and all have failed. What makes you think you'll be any better?" Dagogo took a deep breath, his eyes narrowing. "Because I have something they did not," he said, his voice filled with confidence. "I have knowledge, I have strength, and I have the love of a family who refuses to be torn apart by your curse." There was a long pause, and then the spirit spoke again, its voice filled with a mix of anger and curiosity. "Very well. If you wish to try, then come forward. But know this, mortal, if you fail, you will join the others who have perished in my domain." Dagogo nodded, his grip tightening on his spear. "We are ready," he said firmly, and then they stepped forward, deeper into the heart of the forest, where the spirit awaited them, the fate of their family hanging in the balance. As Dagogo, Bibobra, and Aguma ventured deeper into the dark forest, the trees seemed to close in around them, their twisted branches reaching out like skeletal hands. The air grew colder, and a dense fog began to rise from the ground, swirling around their feet. Bibobra could feel the presence of the spirits all around them, watching and waiting. Suddenly, the ground beneath them began to tremble, the trees shook violently, and the wind picked up, howling through the branches like a chorus of wailing souls. Dagogo raised his spear, his eyes scanning the darkness of any sign of movement. Bibobra clung to her father, her heart pounding in her chest. Then, out of the fog, a figure emerged. It was a tall, shadowy form, its features obscured by the mist. Its eyes glowed with an unnatural light, and its voice, when it spoke, was like the crackling of dry leaves in a fire. "You dare challenge me?" the spirit hissed, its voice filled with contempt. "You, a mere mortal, think you can break the curse I have laid upon this man?" Dagogo stood his ground, his expression unwavering. "I do not fear you," he replied, his voice steady. "I have faced spirits more powerful than you, and I have prevailed. I am here to free this man from your curse, and I will not leave until it is done." The spirit laughed, a cold, mocking sound that sent shivers down Bibobra's spine. "You are bold," it said, "but you are also foolish. You do not understand the true nature of this curse. It is not something that can be broken with brute strength or bravado. It is a bond that ties this man to the spirit world, a bond that was forged in pain." Aguma stepped forward, his voice trembling but resolute. Why do you do this to me? He asked, with his eyes filled with pain. What have I done to deserve such a fate? The spirit turned his gaze to Aguma, its eyes narrowing. You were chosen, he said simply, chosen to be a bridge between the worlds, a conduit for the spirit to speak through. You are both man and spirit, a vessel of our will. This is your destiny. Bibobra felt a surge of anger rise within her. She stepped forward, her eyes blazing. But he did not ask for this, she said. He's a good man. He's a kind man. He does not deserve to suffer for something he did not choose. The spirit turned its gaze to her, its expression unreadable. You speak of choice, it said softly. But do you truly understand what that means? This man was given a gift, a rare and powerful gift, and he has squandered it, hiding away in fear and shame. He could have been great, could have done great things, but instead he chose to live in the shadows. Dagogo raised his spear, his eyes blazing with determination. Enough of this, he shouted. We did not come here to listen to your riddles. If you wish to fight, then fight. But know this, I will not leave this place without freeing this man from your curse. The spirit's eyes flared with anger. Very well, it hissed. If it is a fight you want, then it is a fight you shall have. But know this, mortal, you have sealed your fate. With a sudden deafening roar, the spirit launched at Dagogo, its shadowy form expanding tendrils of darkness, swirling around its form. Like a storm, he stood his ground, his spear raised, ready to strike. As the spirit closed in, he thrust his spear forward, the sharp point piercing through the darkness. There was a blinding flash of light, and the spirit. Please subscribe to this channel, like, share, and comment. Let out a terrible scream, its form dissipating into the mist. For a moment, there was silence. Then the ground began to shake again. The trees swayed violently, their branches creaking and groaning. A fierce fight began between Dagogo and the spirit, and it carried on for hours. Then suddenly, the spirit disappeared. The curse, it's gone. It's finally over. Please subscribe to this channel, like, share, and comment. Bibobra rushed to her father's side, wrapping her arms around him. She could feel his body trembling, the weight of years of suffering and fear lifting from his shoulders. She hugged him tightly, tears of joy streaming down her face. Papa, you are free, she whispered. You are truly free. Aguma turned to Dagogo, his voice filled with emotion. I don't know how to thank you, he said, his voice breaking. You have given me a second chance at life. You have given my daughter hope again. Dagogo nodded, a humble smile on his lips. I have traveled far and wide, but I've never found a place that feels as much like home as this. Bibobra's heart swelled with joy at his words. Please subscribe to this channel, like, share, and comment. She smiled, her cheeks flushing with a mix of relief and happiness. We will be honored to have you, she said. You're welcome in our home always. And yes, I will be your wife. They looked at each other, a silent understanding passing between them. In that moment, they knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. Bibobra reached out, taking Dagogo's hand in hers, a smile spreading across her face. Together, she whispered, and Dagogo nodded, a smile of his own forming on his lips. Together, my love, he agreed.